Stride K-12 powered schools are ready to put over 20 years of being a leader in online education to work for you. Dive into curriculum designed for the online classroom. Team up with state-certified teachers trained in virtual instruction. Take control of your child's education journey. Discover the power of personalized learning with a leader experienced in preparing kids for a future they can be excited about. Take charge. Stride K-12. Enroll now for the fall.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Look who's joining us. It's our good friend, Kris Ferguson, D2Football.com, CIAA columnist. Follow Kris at D2KFerg, F-E-R-G. Kris, how you doing, man? You ready for the football season?
Man, I'm excited. There's a lot to talk about, a lot to go through. I don't even know where to start. It's just so much. So I'm just happy to be here with you guys. It's been so long.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Good to see you. The beard is looking good. It looks like it's full of growth. No grays, by what I can tell. That means you're living right.
Trying.
Stress-free.
He feels left out.
Yeah, trust me. I know that's why I said stress-free, because see, that's where these grays come from, right, Drew? Tell him.
Exactly. And I refuse to do the dye thing. So
I tried it. It didn't hold very well. I tried to get that soap that you massage in. What a waste. But it only cost me a few bucks, so I'm not complaining too hard. All right. So Kris, CIAA action starts this week. Obviously, predicted order. Let's start with kind of the predicted order of finish, which I found a little amusing. The fact that the CIAA, they went all 12, so we really don't know what the divisions are per this order of finish. But Fayetteville State first, Bowie State second, Virginia Union third. And that's what kind of caught me by surprise. What caught you by surprise about the predicted order of finish?
Well, I would say the surprise is probably a little bit further down the order. If you look at how they ended up in the 7-8 slots, and you kind of see a name that hasn't been that high in a long time, Josh C. Smith. I think that one caught more people off surprise because, the CIAA champion, the coaches tend to kind of give them the benefit of the doubt going into the season. But to have John C. Smith, higher than like a Winston Salem State, I think that really stands out quite a bit. And I think that one was the big surprise out of all the teams landed.
Who does
if the coaches?
I was going to ask. Hold on. Who does Johnson C. Smith have? I mean, because I'll play dumb. What does Johnson C. Smith have coming back that warranted this type of love, so to speak?
Well, the thing about Johnson C. Smith is last year they lost several games by less than a touchdown. They had quite a few heartbreakers where they could have. I think they had Chowan on the ropes. They let that one slip by, and a couple other teams. And to understand what happened to them as the season went on, really the main player that got hurt was the quarterback, Tyrell Jackson. So when he went down, they just didn't really have the depth at quarterback to keep going. They had a little bit. They did have their second string quarterback, Malik, who he played. He did fine, and he got hurt. So they were down to a third string quarterback when they were in division play last year. And, really Tyrell Jackson is kind of it seems like he was kind of make and break. And the other things, they were really young last year. I mean, they were very, very young. Now, JCSU has gone into the transfer portal very heavy. There's a lot of guys on this list that I'm looking at. They have pulled from various Division II, FCS, and even BCS level schools like Power 5 and Group of 5 schools. So I mean, they went shopping, and I think they've landed some guys who might can plug in some holes. But rest assured, they're not sitting on their laurels at all. They're hungry.
All right, yeah, go ahead, Drew. My bad.
Oh no, it's all good. Now you just mentioned that the coaches tend to put the champions back at the top, which pretty much every conference tends to do that. So with the North Division champion being Shawan, not in the conference anymore, you would think that the coaches would have put the runner-up in the North, being Virginia Union, and move them up that one slot. But instead, they jumped Bowie over Virginia Union like this was 2021 once again. What's going on with that?
That was a little bit of a surprise too. That's probably like number two on my list of surprises. Mainly because with Virginia Union, you're at least starting with having Jada Byers, who was the leading rusher in all of Division Two last year. Yes, you lost your quarterback to graduation. Yes, they did go to the transfer portal to get who I think is going to be, somebody who might be able to help on quarterback. And then they also had another individual in Christian Reed who, played a little bit last year at the quarterback slot. They lost a little bit of offensive linemen, but the defense is still pretty intact, especially that defensive line. So, you looked at like the preseason all CIAA picks. I mean, it was full of Virginia Union players. So, Bowie State's got a lot of question marks coming in. Again, they're trying to address some of the things that they need through the transfer portal. But the one thing I did notice, like their offensive line is pretty young, and they didn't really have that great of a running game last year, even though they have returning rushers and a quarterback that is trying to stick in the NFL now. So the offense is a huge question mark in addition to losing like a Josh Fryer. So that one, I don't know on that one. That was kind of perplexing to me.
Yeah, you I'm doing a quick count here. Yeah, it's like two guys from Bowie State on that all CIAA team, and there's 8 from Union. But it's like, are the same people are the same people doing the all? It makes you, I tell you, it makes you wonder. There's like an investigation that needs to happen, because like, wait a minute, you got 8 guys from Union, but you have them losing to Bowie, or I guess somehow finishing second. What other takeaways from the preseason predictions? Any other surprises or anything else that caught you?
Well, I was gonna say with Union, it might be like the player haters ball from Chappelle's show, and they're going hate, 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 hate. I mean, maybe that's what it is against Union. I don't know, but yeah, it's kind of a conundrum there. Outside of that, I really don't think there's a ton of surprises here. I mean, you look at Virginia State; they're trying to get to that next level. I think they're probably right where they are. Shaw. I mean, Shaw
I feel like
every
we say that
year,
every year we're like, Shaw.
every year, right? So nothing more needs to be said about them. They've got a lot to prove yet again. Will they have enough? Who knows? At the bottom, I think Lincoln, not being super low is certainly worth looking at a little bit because who's below them? You've got Livingstone, you've got St. Aug. I think even Elizabeth City's below them, and Lincoln's they've got some talent on the roster now. So it'll be interesting to see if they can turn that into a little bit more this year and take that next step.
Let's give some love. Let's kind of talk about the champs. I don't know if people do. You should know. They're the predicted order of finish. They are the defending champs. Fayetteville State, the Broncos, finally got over the hump, so we can kind of move past that narrative. We don't have to really talk about that story unless somebody's going to say, Well, now let's see you do it again. I'm just saying, unless someone wants to do that. But I'm going to give them their flowers and say, this program finally achieved what, they've been there. They've been the second best program in the CIAA for the last 4 years, right there next to Bowie, obviously. So what's your thoughts on this Fayetteville State team coming back with the quarterback that helped win them that title last year? What do you think Coach Hayes has in the stable? Are they going to be good enough to actually win some of those non-conference games this year?
Well, they've got a very challenging non-conference slate. So, the CIAA now is down to 2 games for the second consecutive year. And who did they go out and schedule? They went out and scheduled USC Pembroke in a rivalry game on Thursday night and Lenore-Ryan.
They ain't scared.
I mean, that is intense.
They ain't scared. Fayetteville's like, come on, let's go. We'll scared. Let's go.
Right. So, and I think the Lenore-Ryan is really, really interesting because I think they could play them close. It's a matter of, is there enough on offense to get past them? But I think the defense will keep them close. UNC Pembroke, that's nothing more than Chowan 2.0 right now. If we think about the fact that Mark Hall and much of his staff went over to Chowan in the offseason, a lot of the roster left Chowan and transferred to UNC Pembroke.
Wow.
So that is nothing more than the rivalry of Fayetteville State and Chowan mixed in with Fayetteville State and UNC Pembroke. So don't be fooled. As to Fayetteville State, the team, they had quite a few young pieces at key spots, and then they had a lot of depth, particularly on the defensive line. They lost one of their stars on the defensive line to the FCS, but then Cam Romero comes back. He flirted with the transfer portal, but decided ultimately to stay and kind of anchor that defense quite a bit. I think that defense is going to be just as good as it was last year, if the roster tells me anything. Again, it kind of comes down to Fayetteville State was a old school team that slugged it out in a lot of games last year. Not very high scoring in a lot of cases, but when you think they didn't have enough on offense, they got just enough, and you can't really just peg what that offense could be. So it's hard to count them out. It is a very hard team to count out. Richard Hayes finds a way more likely than not in a lot of ways.
All right, Kris. What about the new kids on the block? Bluefield State. Will they compete? Will they? Because they've played a few CIAA teams since they've rebirthed their football program and have beaten those CIAA teams. But let's keep this into perspective. They have played, for lack of a better words, the bottom dwellers of the CIAA.
Yep.
So from the outside looking in, it looks like Bluefield State will come in as a possible mid-tier team with that may steal a game against the lower echelons of that upper level. What do you have for them?
Well, right now it's a little bit hard to peg where they are because the roster hasn't come out for them. They're one of the very, very few teams right now that hasn't uploaded their rosters yet. So I have a hard time kind of pegging what they may look like. Last season they came back to beat John C. Smith in one of those heartbreaker games in overtime. They beat Elizabeth City, and that's kind of what you're referring to. I think that they're probably. I think they're like 9th in the preseason order. That's probably about right. So they got a long ways to go though to compete for a title in either division. Quite honestly, because remember they did play Virginia State, and that was an eye opener for them. I think it was like 30-47 was this the score last time? And that just shows you how far they have to go. But I think that Coach Coxum is making all the right moves. He doesn't stick recruiting in West Virginia. They travel to recruit, and so at least people will see what it takes to win, even in the CIAA, and make the necessary adjustments.
Lincoln, PA, Kris, they got to be a little. You mentioned them, but they got to be a little upset or maybe stumped at everyone picking Bluefield State to finish ahead of them. Not only within the division, but just overall. I'd be a little agitated if I were Lincoln, PA. Like when that game happens, yeah,
Lincoln's just got a lot to prove, though. I mean, so Lincoln, their head coach last year, he actually moved up into administration. So Frank Turner is now the head coach there, who's the defensive coordinator. They have quite a few pieces coming back, but Lincoln just really hasn't earned the benefit of the doubt in a lot of cases. And they've got a lot of talent at the skill positions, but it just hasn't translated to long-term, like, sustainable success just yet. So I've always looked at Lincoln with intrigued. I think this is a year that, them and Bluefield probably will slug it out to see who can finish behind Bowie, Virginia Union, Virginia State, which I think is a good place. That's progress for them. But man, they just you want to. Those are folks you really want to root for, at least to see what they can do. They've been down for so long. So,
let me ask this question: as we think about teams and what type of season they might have, what coaches are on the, I hate to do it, hot seat this upcoming year? Who needs to have a good season to keep the boosters and the alumni base off their rear this year?
This is such a loaded question.
It is, because I wanted to see what you were going to say. I would tell you who's mine, but I'm not the CIAA columnist. I'm going to let you answer it.
So, like, there are really two coaches that come to mind here. And, the first one, I'm just going to put it out there. Robert Massey's got a heck of a job ahead of him because Winston's faithful is just so used to winning, and they've just been down in the dumps for several years. And I don't think the alumni were ever really truly sold on him as, somebody worthy of a 3-4 year contract. Now, granted, I think that the hiring of A&T's old offensive coordinator, Chris Barnett, is a plus. And it's an upgrade from last year. How far does that get him? Who knows? But I think that's a step in the right direction. It's kind of like I did a show a few years ago where there was a defensive coach who, said, I don't know. I don't deal with the offense. I leave it to the offensive coordinator. He was a defensive coach. That was his background. And he stuck to that because, Massey he was a defensive back, and Winston's defensive backs are typically really, really good. I mean, and you see that. And I think that, like, if, Winston maybe gets away from trying to, like, run the ball well over 30 times a game and see if they can develop a passing game, then it's a team to watch out for. They've got a lot of talent at the wide receiver position, and it's a matter of who's going to throw them the ball. So I think that, he's not going to lose his job because, Winston is not going to pay him out of his contract, but he's definitely got, he's just got a lot of heat on him from the alumni in particular. The other coach I'll probably mention, is Adrian Jones at Shaw, and they've just always been at the cusp. But when you're just there for so long, you start to wonder, well, what is it going to take to get over the hump? And Shaw last year, they just had bad luck because the injuries really piled up on them, and it just really derailed them on what could have been a pretty good team. It was a lot of what ifs last year. So the hope is that you would see them kind of bounce back and and really show up when it matters the most in division play.
Hey, I was just looking at Winston Salem's schedule here, and outside of starting against North Carolina Central and on the road at this Ohio Dominican team, which actually I was looking at, they were what, a 7-3 team, 6-2. So tough. Oh, I mean, look, it might be 0-2, but after that, look, it opens up like just coming out of a dark cloud where all of a sudden it's sunshine. You got Elizabeth City State at home, Bluefield State at home. You travel to Lincoln, PA. You got Livingstone. All that happening before Shaw. You could be sitting at 4-2 with 4 conference wins, 4-0 in conference.
Yeah, 4-0.
Yeah, so I mean, I think if you're less than that, I think be worried. Be worried, Ram fans, Ram Nation. Be worried.
Winston could be anything between 5-1 and 0-6. I mean, it's that wide open, and you just don't know what you're going to get. Because like Ohio Dominican, they're a good team. They're a really good team. But the issue with Ohio Dominican is that the top end of the CIAA can play with them. And I think you saw that like a year or two ago when Virginia State played them. They should have won that game. Mm-hmm. And it was the kicking woes that derailed them in that game. And so that kind of gave me hope that like the top of the CIAA. Now, I mean, yeah, it's a year or two ago, but it's the GLVC. No, the GMAC, and they're not like a top league like some of the other schools, like some of the other conferences are Division II. I think it's a good measuring stick for Winston to see where they are, because if Ohio Dominican drags them down the field, I would really be concerned. But if they can hang tough, even if they lose and they hang tough in that game, I'd be a little optimistic there going into that slate that you just mentioned. But if Winston goes like 1-5, 0-6. I mean, I might have to start ramping up my own donations or something at some point. I mean, I mean that's just brutal if they can't string a win streak out of that.
I'm telling you.
But Brian, who's the other team with those same 3 crossover games? That would be one Johnson C. Smith, who everybody has picked to kind of to move up. Same 3 crossover games, obviously a different order. So Johnson C has that same type of opportunity, except they get Shaw 1 week earlier. So it's gonna be interesting between those 2 teams.
And I throw out there that Johnson C. Smith's out of conference schedule is way easier as well. They play Walsh, who is also in the same conference as Ohio Dominican. And West Virginia Wesleyan.
Yeah.
So I think we'll see really early if Johnson Smith is going to have the offensive firepower that they seem to have, and whether it can work. Because if so, I think that's just a 2-0 Johnson Smith. That's going to throw some people for a loop.
People excited. That's going to get a lot of people excited.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Before we let you out of here, Kris, other than Jada Byers, give us a name or two that we should be looking for in the CIAA. Somebody that you think might be in the running for Player of the Year, or offensive or defensive, or maybe even that coveted Black College Player of the Year award.
Well, I would say that that whole talk can't start without Jada Byers coming back. We know that he can catch. We know that he can run. So, by far, I think he's the player to watch, not just at the conference level, but nationally. Remember, he finished fourth in the Harlan Hill Trophy for the best player in Division II last year.
It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
The hate for running backs just carries on into the college level.
Well, and it's not just that, but it's also at the HBCU level too. I mean, that too, just that shouldn't have happened, in my opinion. But that's just me. I'm
So
just one person.
so he's a double minority.
He's a double minority, right? Absolutely. A couple other names to watch out for would be Sidney Gibbs at Shaw, who's also a very powerful runner. He is, my understanding from looking at the roster is I don't think Andre Brandon is there. So if that's the case, then he doesn't have to split as many carries. So that will certainly be really interesting. Maybe whoever starts at quarterback of Virginia State, I think has a step, whether it's the transfer Romello Williams or Jordan Davis, could probably take a step in that direction as well, as somebody else to sort of look at. And then, like I said, if you got somebody like a Brevin Caldwell, wide receiver, John C. Smith, have another big splash this year, he could be another one to sort of look at the CIAA for Player of the Year.
Nice. Any you want to give any plugs or anything, Kris? Anything you want to plug or let people know about on the way out?
Well, at the Division II level, we also have our show as well, Inside D2 Football. That comes on actually in an hour that I'm on as well. I am doing my preseason prediction, which probably was likely going to differ from what the coaches put together. For what do I know? But that will be coming out probably Tuesday or Wednesday once I get all this stuff typed up, do all my research and see if any more rosters get posted.
Sound like me in the SIC information.
Unbelievable that these coaches don't have rosters up. I am stunned by that. Just unbelievable.
Well, maybe it's the SID, got a lot going on, or maybe they're just withholding information to try to get the leg up on the first game. But conspiracy theories. But you catch me on Twitter as well. My handle's right down here, and looking forward to how week 1 plays out.
Yes, sir. Hey, Kris, we always love talking to you. Always love catching up with the CIAA. You guys make sure to follow Kris. There's no better follow on Saturdays, especially if you love CIAA football, than following Kris on Saturday, because he'll have 5 TV monitors, and he's jumping from game to game, tweeting. I mean, good stuff, Kris. Always love following you on Saturdays. D2 Ferg, Ferg, on X, formerly known as Twitter. And make sure you check out d2football.com, where he's the CIAA columnist. Of course, AD is the SIC columnist. So shout out to d2football.com. Thank you for supporting our brothers with some HBCU content. So, Kris, thank you, man. Thanks for your time this evening. Have a good show. We look forward to reading those predictions later in the week. All right?
I appreciate y'all always.
All right. Take care.